I'm Scott Alan Miller. It is the 19th of January 2023. This is Mia, and this is my vlog of daily life in León, Nicaragua. And today I'm going to be, right after we do a little quick bit of the update for the day, I'm going to be talking about the question that one of the viewers had: can you live in Nicaragua for between $1,500 and $2,000 a year? We're gonna break that. Yeah, we're gonna do that. Okay, first, my day today, just working on videos, doing all the different things, trying to get through the day. It is a busy week. I've been through that because we were traveling, and we got a lot of events coming up this weekend. Tonight is my one night, just day of work, and tonight was my one night of nothing. There was nobody visiting and nothing going on, and everyone was out doing their own things, and the kids just wanted to hang out on their own, and I had no particular plans, and so ordered in pizza for dinner and opened a bottle of wine, and then since we were the only ones here, our chef and I watched the second Harry Potter movie, and that was it. Very, very relaxing nothing day, which I really needed tonight because starting tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a massive web server migration that is going to keep me very busy for many days. All right, that was my day. That was it. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Alan Miller. That comes directly to me. Really, really, really helps. And share with your friends. Tell people about the show. Travel, Nicaragua, Central America, gardens, dogs, and all kinds of interesting things. We're here in the Barrio Sutiaba in León, Nicaragua right now. And we're going to go right to today's topic. Can you live on $1,500 to $2,000 per year in Nicaragua? This question was so intense that I decided I had to sit down for it, which is not something that I normally do, but let's break this down. So before we get to anything, let's start at the highest level. Can you live on $1,500 per year in Nicaragua? I'm going to just go out and say no, you can't do it. Can you live on $2,000? Well, let's start at real high level. What does minimum wage look like in Nicaragua? Typically, minimum wage is $186 per month. Yes, the US dollars. And that means you're a little bit above $2,200 per year. So if you're saying, can I live per year on $2,000, you're talking about living on slightly below 90% of the minimum wage survival wage of the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So we're talking about an extreme challenge. And we need to preface this challenge with several things. One, we're assuming this is not a sustainability number. The question is not, can I live on $20,000 for a decade? It is, can I for 1 year survive on $2,000? We are not going to include any numbers in that, such as travel to or from Nicaragua. This is just for the time that you'll be living here. We're not going to include any costs that you need to incur for border runs or migración or other legal things like that. We're not going to include any emergency medical bills. If you are going to, have a major accident and have to have your leg treated because you broke it at the hospital, we're not going to include those numbers. So this is, we're kind of approaching this as if you are a healthy 25-year-old who, for fun, is being challenged to take a wad of 72,000 Cordoba, which is what $2,000 is, and come to Nicaragua and see if you can make it for 365 days. This is an extreme challenge. And at best, I'm going to say maybe. But let's break it down, because this is interesting, and this came up because on the channel, I showed just the other day, student housing. It was $80 a month here in León, in Laborio, which is one of the wealthier central barrios. So rather affluent, bit more expensive than farther up, like here in Sutiaba. So first we have to break down. So we're looking at 90% of the income, or less, 88% I think, of the income of the poorest Nicaraguans who are working. Nicaraguans do survive on this and survive okay, but typically you're going to be looking at a few things that are different, because we're assuming for this challenge you're not talking about a Nicaraguan, you're talking about an expat. Can an expat do this? A Nicaraguan who does this is generally going to have a dual income family. So that represents the income of one person, but as a couple, they would have double that income. And someone who's staying in a really small house would do so with two people, not just one. Living on your own is not something that is commonly done here. You can do it, but it's not commonly done because it's a lot of cost, and you need to earn enough to get past that. Now, that said, if you have two people earning that and living a very, very modest life together, you can actually do okay here. So this is not as far-fetched as it may seem, but it is pretty far-fetched. It is also important to note, when we're talking about Nicaraguans who do this, typically they have a lot of familial support. In many cases, you may earn minimum wage, but you would live at home with your parents, possibly with other siblings. There would be multiple people who have income. The parents most likely will have paid for the house long ago, possibly generations ago, and you won't be incurring those costs. You won't have air conditioning. That's going to be an assumption. Air conditioning's out the door. If you want air conditioning, you cannot do this challenge, right? At an extreme, you may spend $2,000 a month on air conditioning. That would be quite an extreme, but it's not. If you were a person who got a large house and ran air conditioning at American levels around the clock, you could actually hit well above $1,000 a month for sure. So it doesn't take much to eat through a budget so small. I'm sorry, not a month, a year. You would easily spend more than $2,000 a year in air conditioning costs. So let's talk about what this number really is. If we take $2,000 a year and divide that into 12 months, we're looking at about $167 per month. We're gonna slightly fudge it high just to give there some chance of making this number. That's a really small amount of money to live on a month-to-month basis, but it's plausible. So let's start with housing. Now in the example that I showed some pretty nice student housing for $80. There's not much margin for getting housing below $80. If you got really lucky and you found a roommate or you did something like that, you may have some ability to get your total cost per person lower. But we're going to assume you're doing this on your own for the purposes of this random YouTube question challenge. So we're going to say, if you live outside of a city center, but still in a city, and you go for student level housing, we're gonna give you an accommodation of $76 per month to get you down there. That leaves you with $90 for everything else per month. At $76, you should be able to get an absolutely tiny apartment with utilities paid. That's television, which is basically free, power, and internet. In theory, if you were willing to go without internet and power included, you could, I believe, get closer to $50 per month for housing. It would be extremely undesirable, and you would have to provide your own power, which here, if you're at the lowest tier of power usage, like if you just had one LED bulb and you were incredibly, conservative, you only used power when you absolutely needed it, charging your phone, turning on the light at night, nothing else, because you never need to run a heater and you would not have a fan or air conditioning, then you would be at a tier of power usage that is so low it is essentially free. Not because you don't use any, but because there is a subsidy for people at that tier here in Nicaragua, for the reason that the income is so low that they basically get their power for free, and those of us who use air conditioning, for example, pay extra to cover the cost for them. And those of us who use air conditioning understand that that's how it works, and we're perfectly fine with that. I actually prefer that system. If you're able to reduce your usage so much that you basically aren't worth charging, I don't want to charge you. I would happily pay so that goes away, and they that's great for the environment, it's great for the economy, it's great for people who are struggling. Everyone basically wins. For people like me who are able to afford air conditioning, that doesn't hurt any, who cares? Solve social problems way better. So I'm very happy with that system personally. So if you can fall into that tier, you may be able to get your housing down a bit and provide yourself a little bit of additional comfort there. We're also going to assume you're not going to buy any clothing during this time, right? You're going to come with whatever clothing you're going to wear. You don't need to commute to work. You don't have to do anything like that. The question is, can you live here for that price? So assuming all those things, that we have enough, we have $90 to live on for 30 days each month. That means all of our food has to be provided for within $3 per day. And here in Nicaragua, I believe that can be done. That is going to create a dietary situation that you may not enjoy. But the standard food that everyone eats here is chicken, rice and beans, and fresh fruits and many fresh vegetables are incredibly cheap. At $3, that may sound absurd, but it is actually possible without a kitchen, simply going out to eat, to possibly meet your daily dietary requirements at that price. It is going to take some expertise, some creativity, and a lot of putting up with a very unhappy or limited food selection. Very rarely would you get meat. It would be a lot of rice and beans and a lot of going to everything would be going to the markets or going to the fritangas. And once in a while you'd be able to get eggs. Once in a while you'd be able to get a few different things. But you would be living very much on the edge. I would not venture to do this if you didn't have some kind of safety net. You're definitely taking a pretty big risk if you have $2,000 cash and it's got to last you a year and you have no other way out, right? All it takes is one time going out to a restaurant being like, I need a steak, I need a bottle of wine, and it's all going to fall apart because you're going to have no margin for error at these numbers. But is it plausible to survive at $167 per month without, I think this goes kind of without saying, without becoming homeless? If you were willing to be homeless, I don't recommend that. If you're willing to live in tents, you brought the tent with you, you didn't have to buy anything, you had all the supplies to camp or whatever, you may be able to convince people to let you camp somewhere somewhat rural, not necessarily rural, but somewhere kind of rural, and be able to do that for $10 a month on someone's farm where you're not in the way or something, and walk to everything you need. And that would give you a completely different financial situation, but you also wouldn't have Wi-Fi. You wouldn't have electric. There's some, I don't know what you would do because you'd be bored out of your mind, I guess, but it can be done, right? You can do, there's a little bit to play with, but you really have to, I think, have that $3 per day for food. You can't let that slip. And just everything you do has to fit into that envelope. And so if you're going to take public transportation, that's going to come out of your food budget for the day. Now, you can get around the city for far less than 50 cents, but that's a huge portion of your food budget, so you have to be careful. And you can go between cities for just $1 or $2, but again, that could be almost all of your food budget for the day. And so you could be getting very, very risky by attempting those kinds of numbers. And you would have to really carefully stick to food that is high in both nutrients and calories, or you will fall short of one or the other if you're not really, really careful. So I think the answer is, can you? Yes, if you have a lot of these constraints. You don't have to do it for forever. You don't need healthcare. Nothing goes wrong. You're willing to live with, no entertainment. And one of the questions, or one component of the question was, would I, for that amount of money, be able to afford a cell phone? And yes, if you brought the cell phone with you, you can't buy one for sure, because that would be, there's no way to buy a cell phone under $100, right? Not realistically. And so that would be 2/3 of 1 month, entire budget gone just buying the phone. But if you brought some phone with you and you want to put a local SIM card into it, that's a one-time cost of just a few dollars, like $3 to get a SIM card. And then you're looking at a monthly cost of about $6. So yes, somewhere in your housing and food, you're going to have to wiggle in just this little tiny bit per day, but it really is pennies per day. And you can have Tigo or Claro local phone service, and you will have unlimited WhatsApp as long as you have somewhere to charge it, and Facebook and Instagram and some stuff like that. And so you could, in theory, do nothing but charge your phone, walk around all day, take pictures and videos, upload them to those services that are free with that, and you'd be okay. You could do that. it really feels like the kind of thing that would be like, my college buddies challenged me that if I do this, I could win some prize. If I could put up with this for a year, I win $100,000 or something, right? Okay, if it was that kind of challenge and there was some reason to go for it, I would feel like, okay, that could be cool. 1 year knowing that all you had to do is make it through this 1 year and it's worth it. But if you're trying to see if you can live on just $2,000, overall, I just wouldn't want to try to live on just $2,000 alone, right? If you had a family that was helping you and you didn't have to pay for rent, if you had a partner, if you had four of you, if you had $8,000 and 4 people and you're going to split a tiny house, I've seen houses listed for as little as $86 a month in less desirable areas, but not terrible. Like just not an area anybody wants, but not like scary. And you're willing to put cots on the floor or whatever. Okay, 4 people sharing a house, sharing an internet connection, sharing the power, no air conditioning, no fan, for 8. You might be able to get down to $80 a month, and then split that, so it's only 20, and then suddenly money goes a lot farther. Now you might be able to maybe cook at home, or maybe you buy some fruits and vegetables and split them a little bit, and you could, in theory, make that work relatively well. But doing it alone is going to be really, really tough. So it's an interesting question, and it intrigued me as I'm like, well, people have asked me like $3,000 a month or $1,500 a month, and it's like, ooh, what would you do? But at $167 a month alone, the big questions would be why? Because if you're in a position to move here and ask me those questions and watch YouTube about it, you're probably in a position to earn more than that in a month remotely, one way or another. But if it's purely just a challenge to see if you can, I think you probably could, but boy, are you going to have to be dedicated to it. Now that said, I know people who make at or below 200 per month, and with the familial connections here, with the lifestyle that comes with living here, they are occasionally able to go out and get a beer at a bar and go see live music and do things. Not all the time, not constantly, and not drink heavily, and like they have to really, really carefully budget and plan and keep themselves from losing control. But when you're living with family, when you have shared living spaces, when you have those shared expenses, it's plausible, right? So it really is how you look at it and what it is you're looking to do. So I hope that answers your question. I hope that get down and let's talk about it in the questions below, because this is very interesting. No one should be looking to do this, and Nicaragua does not appreciate if you have to live on that. They're not going to let you in. If you're just doing it to see if you can do it, then whatever, right? As long as you have enough money in the bank to bail you out should you fail at this challenge, then that's fine. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. I will see all of you tomorrow.